Welcome to iRace online classes. Now this session will go for the topic parajumbles. Now this topic parajumbles comes under the section verbal logic. Reading comprehension, parajumbles, cloze test, all these come under verbal logic. Now verbal logic questions don't have any rules, but there are many strategies or techniques. There are many strategies or techniques to approach every parajumble, every verbal logic question. We have already gone for reading comprehension. We have gone for the strategies in detail. We have tried solving a question based only on those strategies. Now as this topic parajumble comes under verbal logic, it has got some strategies. There are some strategies to approach this topic. We'll go for those strategies and then we'll try solving an exercise based only on these concepts in fact. You know how a parajumble question will be. 4 or 5 sentences will be given and they'll be jumbled. And our task is to arrange the sentences in the right order. So there are some concepts to be followed while arranging the sentences. I'll take you through all those concepts in detail, then we'll try solving an exercise on this topic. Now, if you try to understand, if I say 4 sentences are there, A, B, C, D. Option 1 says A, B, C, D. Option 2 says BACD. Option 3 says CADB. Should you go to every option and arrange the sentences according to the order? If 1 says ABCD, arrange and say ABCD. If 2 says BACD, arrange and say BACD. No. There's nothing wrong in doing that, but that consumes a lot of time. Now, don't try to understand the meanings of the sentences in the case of parajumbles. If you try to understand the meanings of sentences, you will have time only for that. Instead, we need to go by some concepts or some strategies. You forget about the options. Apply the concepts onto the sentences and move on to the options only to start the elimination process. So our task is to get the answer, the right answer in a very short time. That's what our task is at the time of the examination because of the time limit. So these are some concepts to approach the topic parajumbles. I'll tell you every concept in detail. Now the very first strategy to approach parajumbles is check out for pronouns. Now this is a very important concept, check out for pronouns. Now questions on pronouns will be there in the sentence improvement part, spotting their part. Pronouns will surely help us a lot while approaching questions like reading comprehension, parajumbles, cloze test and fill in the blanks. If you have already come across the application of the concept of pronouns in reading comprehension. We'll think about this, the application of pronouns in the case of parajumbles. You know what a pronoun is. Any word that is used instead of a noun or in the place of a noun. Any word that substitutes a noun is called a pronoun. We have gone for pronouns in detail in the grammar part. We have gone for exercise on that topic as well. Right? Check out for pronouns. I have told you about pronoun antecedent. Ante means pre, before. Pronoun antecedent means every pronoun must refer to a noun before it. Without a noun, we cannot have a pronoun. A singular pronoun can refer only to a singular noun and a plural pronoun can refer only to a plural noun. That is the concept of pronoun antecedent. You should never miss any indicator, any pronoun while reading. Never miss any pronoun while reading because this concept will surely help us eliminate options and get the answer. If I say 2 sentences, A and B. A and B. Now, sentence A contains a noun and sentence B contains a pronoun. Now, every pronoun must refer to a noun immediately before it. Pronoun antecedent. Sentence A carries a noun and sentence B carries a pronoun. If you feel that the pronoun in sentence B refers to the noun in sentence A, then AB must come together. I repeat, if the pronoun in sentence B refers to the noun in sentence A, then AB must come together and AB can be called a mandatory pair. What do you mean mandatory? Compulsory. If I say AB is a mandatory pair, that means A and B must come together. A and B can never get separated. Now every parajumble question will have at least one mandatory pair. There may be 2 or 3, but there will be at least one mandatory pair in every parajumble question. So when you take a question, based on the concepts, you find out the mandatory pair. And when you find out one mandatory pair, move on to the options. See how many options can be eliminated using that mandatory pair. Using one mandatory pair, sometimes you can eliminate 3 options. At least one option can be eliminated using one mandatory pair. If you feel AB is a mandatory pair, sometimes there will be only one option with AB as mandatory pair. So without even thinking about the other options, you can just eliminate them. So every pronoun must refer to a noun immediately before it. The sentence carrying the pronoun and the sentence carrying the noun it refers to must come together. That can be called a mandatory pair. Clear? Now these pronouns, I have told you these in detail while discussing the topic pronouns. This, that, these, those. They are termed as demonstrative pronouns. I told you never miss any pronoun while reading. This, that, these, those are also pronouns and they are called demonstrative pronouns. They are termed as demonstrative pronouns because we use these pronouns only when we demonstrate something, refer to something in specific, like this boy, that boy, these boys, those boys, etc. That's why they're termed as demonstrative pronouns. The first sentence says this girl. Immediately before it, there must be a sentence containing mention about girl. Only then we can say this girl. So sentence containing mention about girl and the sentence saying this girl must come together can be called a mandatory pair. If a sentence says these boys, immediately before it there must be a sentence containing mention about boys. So sentence containing mention about boys and the sentence saying these boys must come together can be called a mandatory pair. So never miss any pronoun while reading. When you find a pronoun, just see to which noun that particular pronoun refers to. The sentence carrying the noun and the sentence carrying the pronoun together can be called a mandatory pair. So this is the very first concept. Check out for pronouns and it is a very important concept as well. Come to the second concept, names. Names in the sense, sentences carrying names. If I go for 3 sentences like sentence A, sentence A says, Shakespeare has written many short stories. Shakespeare has written many short stories. Sentence B, William Shakespeare is a prolific writer. Prolific writer means a versatile writer. William Shakespeare is a prolific writer. One more. He has written many plays as well. 3 sentences. Shakespeare has written many short stories. William Shakespeare is a prolific writer. He has written many plays as well. Is the order correct? No. Now here the correct order must be B-A-C. Right? Now here in 2 sentences we find mention about names. Sentence A and sentence B. Sentence A and B. Sentences A and B contain mention about names. Now the rule is this. When you find sentences carrying names, the sentence carrying the full name must appear before the sentence carrying half the name. I am not saying immediately before. In the case of pronouns, it is immediately before. Every pronoun must refer to a noun immediately before it. In the case of names, it is just this. The sentence carrying the full name must appear before sentence carrying half the name. So now all the options where sentence carrying half the name comes before sentence carrying the full name, without thinking much, eliminate those options. So when you find names mentioned in sentences, think about this concept. Now here, as I said, in 2 sentences we find mention about names. Sentence A and sentence B. Sentence A says Shakespeare. Sentence B says William Shakespeare. So the full name is mentioned in B. So A cannot come before B. So here the order must be B-A-C. I'll tell you why not B-C-A. Leave it. I'll leave it there. Leave it here. I'll come back to it. So this is the concept of names. When you find sentences carrying names, think about this concept. As I said, the sentence carrying the full name must appear before sentence carrying half the name. So this is a concept of names. Come to the third concept, general and specific. Now in a paragraph or a sentence, the change always happens from general to specific. In a sentence or a paragraph, the change always happens from general to specific. That means it starts in a general way and then moves on to specific, right? I'll tell you what. Now the three articles in English are a and the. A and the are three articles in English. A and an are termed as indefinite articles because we don't use a and an to refer to a particular person or a particular object. That means a and an indefinite articles are taken as general. The is called the definite article because we use the to refer to a particular person or a particular object. That means the definite article is taken as specific. A and an are taken as general, the is taken as specific. As I told you, in a sentence or a paragraph, the change always happens from general to specific. It starts in general way and then moves on to specific. If I say two sentences, A and B. A and B. A says, the boy, and B says, a boy. A says, the boy, and B says, a boy. Now, the boy is specific, a boy is general. Which of these two sentences must come first? Now, we have the word boy mentioned in two sentences, A and B. In A and B, we find mention about the noun boy. When a word in the sense noun, when verbs can be repeated in fact. Word in the sense is a noun. When a word is used in two sentences, when one word, the same word is used in two sentences, those two sentences must come together. So here we have two sentences, A and B, and in both the sentences we find mention about the noun or the word boy. So these two statements must come together. Now my question is, here the mandatory pair must be AB or BA. That is my question. I told you, the change always happens from general to specific. A boy is general, whereas the boy is specific. So the order cannot be AB. Here the mandatory pair must be BA. General and specific. I repeat, when we find the same word mentioned in two sentences, those two sentences must come together. And based on the information, now if articles are given in sentences, you can easily find out which is general, which is specific. If articles are not there, based on the information given in those two sentences, based on the details given in those two statements, you must be able to identify which one is general and which one is specific. Place the general statement before the specific one. So a general statement and the specific statement together can be called a mandatory pair. Clear? So here BA is a mandatory pair. The same word is used in two sentences, A and B. B is general, A is specific. The change happens from general to specific. Here the mandatory pair must be BA and not AB. So this is a concept of general and specific. Clear? Come to the next concept, introductory sentence. Now every paragraph deals with a particular subject matter or a theme. And the sentence that introduces the subject matter or the theme is termed as the introductory sentence. Now my question is it a must that we look for the introductory sentence? Is it compulsory that we look for the introductory sentence? If you're able to find out the introductory sentence in the very first reading, it's really good. But if you find any difficulty in identifying the introductory sentence, then just forget about this context. Forget about this concept. Instead, try to find out the mandatory pairs using the other concepts. Now sometimes the jumble sentences may be taken from the middle of a paragraph. Sometimes they may be taken from the beginning of a paragraph. And if the jumble sentences are taken from the beginning of a paragraph, we can easily find out the introductory sentence. But if they are taken from the middle of a paragraph, it may be difficult for us to find out the introductory sentence. If I say 4 sentences, 3 sentences tell us about the activities of Gandhiji, and 1 sentence tells us who Gandhiji is. Three sentences tell us about the activities of Gandhiji, and one sentence tells us who Gandhiji is. Now from this it is very clear that the sentence that tells us who Gandhiji is the introductory sentence, because Gandhiji is getting introduced here. And this means that these four sentences are taken from the beginning of a paragraph, because Gandhiji is getting introduced in one of the four sentences. So in such a case, you can easily find out the introductory sentence. If I say four sentences, all the four sentences tell us about the activities of Gandhiji. That means none of the four sentences introduces Gandhiji. All the four sentences tell us about the activities of Gandhiji. This means that these four sentences are taken from the middle of a paragraph. That is why Gandhiji is not getting introduced. Now in such a case, it may be difficult for us to identify the introductory sentence. And if you're able to find out the introductory sentence in the very first reading, it's really good. Or else, just forget about this concept. As I said, try to find out. Instead of spending your time trying to identify the introductory sentence, make use of our time to find out the mandatory pairs using the other concepts. Now, can the introductory sentence must contain a noun or a pronoun? It must contain a noun, because first comes a noun, then comes a pronoun. So a sentence carrying a pronoun cannot start a paragraph. Only a sentence carrying a noun can start a paragraph. Sometimes a simple concept like this will help us eliminate three options and get the answer. So the introductory sentence must be general or specific. It cannot be specific, it must be general, because the change happens from general to specific. The introductory sentence cannot carry a pronoun, it should carry a noun. It cannot be specific, it must be general. And when names are mentioned, the introductory sentence cannot carry half the name. The introductory sentence must carry the full name. So keeping all these in our mind will surely help us eliminate options, because in fact we can never miss any concept. So this is a concept of introductory sentences. This is not that important a concept, right? If you're able to find out, it's good. Or else try to find out instead of focusing on finding out the introductory sentence, try to find out the mandatory pairs using the other concepts. Come to the next concept, flow of ideas. Now in a paragraph, there must be a flow of ideas. The first sentence must move on to the second to the third to the fourth, etc. All the details related to a particular topic must come together. Only then there will be a flow of ideas. Now every two sentences in a paragraph will be related. The first and the second will be related. The second and the third will be related. The third and the fourth will be related. So as I said, all the details related to a particular topic must appear together. And sentences containing mention about or talking about the same idea or the same topic can be called a mandatory pair. If I say four sentences, A, B, C, D. Sentence A contains mention about the idea X, the word X. B contains mention about X. D also contains mention about X. Now in three sentences, we find mention about the same word, that is X. And those three sentences are A, B and D. So A, B and D contain mention about the same word. This means that these three sentences, A, B and D, are talking about the same topic. C doesn't contain mention about the word X. A, B and D are talking about the same topic. So these three sentences must anyway come together. The order can be anything. The order can be ABD, BAD, DAB, but no matter what, these three must come together. Now to this question, I give you options like option 1, A, B, C, D. Option 2, B, C, A, D. Option 3, A, C, B, D. Option 4, D, A, B, C. I give you four options to this question. Now A, B and D contain mention about the same word. That means these three sentences are talking about the same topic. So these three must come together. Come to option 1. In option 1, A, B and D are separated by C, cannot happen, eliminated. In option 2, B and A are separated by C, cannot happen, eliminated. In option 3, A and B are separated by C, cannot happen, eliminate it. In option 4, D, A and B are coming together, the answer must be 4. Now I give you one more option. Option 5, B, D, A, C must be considered eliminated. Must be considered because B, D and A are coming together. This must also be considered. Now we have two correct options, 4 and 5. Now we have to go back to our sentences, apply another concept, find out another mandatory pair to distinguish between these two options. Clear? So all the sentences that talk about the same idea or the same topic must be brought together, can be called a mandatory pair. So this is a concept of flow of ideas. As earlier in the paragraph, there must be a flow of ideas. Getting it? Come to the next concept, examples. Now an example is a support indicator. I gave in the list of support indicators. And when I mentioned about example in the list of support indicators, I gave these words together. If you check the list of support indicators, you'll find these words. As an example, like, similarly, such as, for instance, as an illustration, likewise. All these words I gave together and I said all these words mean the same. Now an example is a support indicator. The rule regarding example we discussed in the case of reading comprehension apart from grammar questions, grammar topics. An example cannot be taken as an idea. An example is not an idea. An example always supports a statement that comes immediately before it. That's the rule regarding examples. If you find any sentence containing any of these words, as an example, like, similarly, such as, for instance, as an illustration, likewise. If you find any sentence carrying any of these words, conclude that that particular sentence is an example. Can an example start a paragraph? No. An example cannot start a paragraph because an example always supports a statement that comes immediately before it. That means immediately before an example, there must be a sentence that the example supports. So an example cannot start a paragraph. So an example can no way be the introductory sentence. Clear? When you find any sentence as an example, just see which sentence is getting supported by that example. That sentence will surely be there because only then we can have the example. So when you find an example, find out exactly which sentence is getting support by the example. Undoubtedly, that sentence will be given among the 4 sentences. Find out the sentence that the example supports. Now the sentence that the example supports and the sentence that is the example will contain mention about the same word or the same idea. The same word or the same idea will be there in those 2 sentences, undoubtedly. So a sentence that the example supports and the sentence that is the example must come together, can be called a mandatory pair. Right? You must be able to identify which sentence is getting support by the example. The sentence will surely be there, and that sentence and the sentence that is the example will contain mention about the same word or the same idea. I repeat, the sentence that the example supports and the sentence that is the example must be brought together and can be called a mandatory pair. Clear? So this is a concept of examples. An example cannot start a paragraph, and the sentence getting support by the example and the sentence that is the example together can be called a mandatory pair. Come to the next concept, question and answer. What do you mean by an interrogative sentence? Any sentence ending with a question mark can be called an interrogative sentence. Can a paragraph start with a question? Yes. A paragraph can start with a question. And if a paragraph starts with a question, what comes immediately after it will be the answer to the question. Because the rule is this, a question and the answer to the question must appear together and can be called a mandatory pair. A question and the answer to the question must appear together and can be called a mandatory pair. Fine, I'll come back to it. Can a paragraph end with a question? Yes. Now a paragraph can begin with a question, a paragraph can end with a question. Now as I told you, if a paragraph begins with a question, what comes immediately after it will be the answer to the question. Because a question and the answer to the question must come together. If a paragraph ends with a question, who has to answer the question? We, the readers, have to answer the question. The author can pose a question to the readers and he expects an answer from the readers. So paragraph can begin with a question as well as end with a question. Now if you find any interrogative sentence among the sentences, interrogative sentence means a sentence ending with a question mark. If you find any interrogative sentence among the sentences, just see whether the answer to that question is given among the sentences or not. And if the answer is given, the question that is the answer, the sentence that is the question, and the sentence that is the answer will contain mention about the same word. The same word or same idea will be there in those two sentences, undoubtedly. So if the answer to a question is given among the sentences, the sentence that is a question and the sentence that is the answer must come together, can be called a mandatory pair. Clear? If the answer to a question is not given among the sentences, then the interrogative sentence must be the last sentence in the order. Clear? If the answer, I repeat, if the answer to a question is not given among the sentences, the interrogative sentence must be the last one in the order. That means go for an option where the interrogative sentence comes at the end. Clear? So this is the concept of question and answer. A paragraph can start with a question as well as end with a question. If the answer to a question is given among the sentences, the question, the sentence that is a question, the sentence and the sentence that is the answer must come together, mandatory pair. Because a question and the answer to a question must come together. If the answer to a question is not given among the sentences, as I told you, the interrogative sentence must be the last one in the order. Clear? So this is the concept of question and answer. Now the last concept, which is very important like pronouns, is indicators. We have discussed it many times. We have thought about the application of the concept of indicators in the case of grammar questions. We have solved reading comprehension questions using the concept of indicators. This concept, indicators, will surely help us a lot while approaching all types of verbal questions. You cannot touch parajumbles without a good knowledge of pronouns and indicators. In fact, these two concepts are enough for us to crack parajumble questions. Without trying to understand the meanings of sentences, we can solve the questions especially based on pronouns and indicators. Never miss any pronoun, never miss any indicator. Pronouns and indicators deserve utmost importance, especially in the case of parajumbles, to get the answers in no time. Now, three kinds of indicators are contrast, support, and cause and effect. You know this. A contrast indicator always connects to contradicting ideas. It means one positive idea and one negative idea. A support indicator always connects to supporting ideas, either two positive ideas or two negative ideas. A cause and effect indicator connects a reason and a result. And it's always positive result, negative reason, negative result. Always. Clear? As I told you, you should not miss any indicator while reading. They deserve utmost importance while reading. Now, every indicator connects two ideas. In the case of parajumbles, an indicator connects two sentences. The two sentences that are getting connected by an indicator, no matter which indicator it is, the two sentences that are getting connected by an indicator can be called a mandatory pair. Clear? Now, if I say, two sentences. Now I repeat, every indicator connects two ideas. Sentences A and B. Sentence A contains one idea. Sentence B contains an indicator and one idea. I told you every indicator connects two ideas. Sentence A contains one idea. Sentence B contains an indicator and one idea. If you feel that the indicator in sentence B is connecting the ideas in sentences A and B, then these two sentences must come together. I repeat, if you feel that the indicator in B is connecting the ideas in A and B, then these two sentences must come together. Now my question is, here the mandatory pair must be AB or BA. That is my question. Now, as I told you, every indicator connects two ideas. In the case of parajumbles, indicator connects two sentences. A is one sentence, B is the other sentence. When indicator connects two sentences, the indicator must come in the second sentence. When indicator connects two sentences, the indicator must come in the second sentence. We have two sentences here, A and B. The indicator in B is connecting the ideas in A and B. And when indicator connects two sentences, as I told you, the indicator must come in the second sentence. The indicator is there in B, so B must be the second sentence here. Based on that, BA is eliminated. The answer must be AB, right? Because when indicator connects two sentences, the indicator must come in the second sentence. So the answer here must be AB. Now when you find, okay, I'll come back to it. I go for one sentence. Sentence A. Though she was sick, comma, she went to school. Though she was sick, comma, she went to school, full stop. Every sentence ends with a full stop. We have only one sentence here. Though is a contrast indicator. I gave the list of contrast indicators. Must connect one positive idea and one negative idea. The first idea here is she was sick, negative. The second idea here is she went to school, positive. So the concept of contrast indicators is completely fine. Connecting one negative idea and one positive idea. Now here, this indicator, only one sentence here. Sentence A, the sentence ends with a full stop. Every sentence ends with a full stop. The two ideas getting connected by the indicator though are in the same sentence. I repeat, the two ideas getting connected by the indicator though are in the same sentence. This indicator will not help us in the case of parajumbles. When you find an indicator in a sentence, see how many ideas are there in the sentence. When the sentence contains indicator and one idea, that sentence must be connected to another sentence immediately before it. Clear? When a sentence contains indicator and one idea, that sentence must be connected to another sentence immediately before it. Now tell me, can sentence B start the paragraph? No. Sentence B contains an indicator and one idea. So this sentence must be connected to another sentence immediately before it. Means immediately before this sentence, there must be another sentence. So paragraph cannot start with B. B cannot be the introductory sentence here. Now earlier, I gave you three sentences as an example of the concept of names. I said the order must be B, A, C. Now anyway, come to sentence 3. He has written many plays as well. Can the paragraph start with 3? No. I can give you two reasons to say that the paragraph cannot start with 3. One reason is he is a pronoun. So immediately before this sentence, there must be a sentence containing mention about noun. One more reason, mention about a noun. One more reason, he has written many plays as well. As well is a support indicator. How many ideas are there in sentence 3? Only one idea. He has written many plays. So sentence 3 contains an indicator and one idea. So this sentence must be connected to another sentence immediately before it. So the paragraph cannot start with 3. So we have two reasons to say that the paragraph cannot start with 3. One is he is a pronoun. Other one is we have an indicator with one idea. So it cannot start with 3. Now anyway, it is very clear that the paragraph should start with B. Because the full name comes in B, William Shakespeare. So it should start with B. Now we have two sentences left, A and C. The indicator is there in C. I told you when indicator, only two sentences left, A and C. When indicator connects two sentences, A and C, the indicator must come in the second sentence. We have two sentences left, A and C. The indicator is there in C. So C must be the second sentence when you compare A and C. So here it cannot be BCA, it must be BAC. Clear? Right. So when a sentence contains indicator and two ideas, that indicator will not help us in the case of parajumbles. When you find a sentence containing an indicator, see how many ideas are in that sentence. I repeat, when a sentence contains indicator and with one idea, contains indicator and one idea, that sentence must be connected to another sentence immediately before it. Clear? So the two sentences getting connected by an indicator can be called a mandatory pair. So these are the 8 concepts that need to be kept in mind while approaching questions on parajumbles. We will try solving every question in the topic parajumbles based only on these concepts. We'll find out the mandatory pairs first, then we'll see how many options can be eliminated using every mandatory pair. So no guesswork, no trying to understand the meanings of the sentences, the jumble sentences. We'll try solving parajumble questions based only on these concepts. Clear? Selection as well as elimination must be based only on these concepts, and a primary focus must be on finding out the mandatory pairs. Finding out the mandatory pairs using these concepts. Clear? I repeat, check out for pronouns. I'll take you through all these concepts once again quickly. Every pronoun must refer to a noun immediately before it. The sentence carrying the noun and the sentence carrying the pronoun must come together, mandatory pair. Don't miss demonstrative pronouns as well. Names, when you find sentences carrying names, the sentence carrying the full name must appear sentence carrying half the name. General and specific, when one word is mentioned in two sentences, based on the information given in those two sentences, identify which is general, which is specific, place the general one before the specific one. That means the general one and the specific one together can be called a mandatory pair. Introductory sentence, it cannot carry a pronoun, it must carry a noun. It cannot be specific, it must be general. It cannot carry half the name, it must carry the full name. When half the name and full name both are mentioned. Then it cannot be an example, it cannot carry an indicator. Right. These 5 concepts. Flow of ideas, all the sentences that talk about the same topic must come together, mandatory pair. Examples, an example cannot start a paragraph. An example always supports the statement coming immediately before it. The sentence that is getting support by an example and the sentence that is the example must come together, mandatory pair. Those two sentences will contain mention about the same word or the same idea. Question and answer, a paragraph can begin as well as end with a question. If the answer to a question is given among the sentences, the sentence that is a question and the sentence that is the answer must come together, mandatory pair. Those two sentences will contain mention about the same word or the same idea. If the answer to a question is not given among the sentences, the interrogative sentence must be the last sentence in the order. Then indicators, never miss any indicator while reading. Every indicator connects two sentences. In the case of parajumbles, when a sentence contains an indicator and one idea, that sentence must be connected to another sentence immediately before it. I repeat, we'll try solving questions on parajumbles based only on these concepts. Check out for pronouns, names, general and specific, introductory sentence, flow of ideas, examples, question and answer, indicators. Clear? So these are the strategies that need to be kept in mind while approaching a question on parajumbles. Got it? We'll go for an exercise based only on these concepts. Thank you.